As we're using Zoom more and more, it's important to lay out some procedures, expectations, and rules for your students so that if you are conducting any kind of instructional meeting, you can get the most out of it that you can, and that your students can get the most out of it. Think about your classroom. At the beginning of the year, you spent time going over rules, procedures, and expectations. You need to do the same thing with your Zoom conferences. You also spent a lot of time setting up your classroom. You need to do the same thing setting up your actual meeting. So when I start a meeting, when I'm going to schedule one, something that I make sure to do is first of all, I make sure the video is off for participants and hosts to start with. I come down to meeting options and I'm going to mute participants on entry. I don't want them coming in all loud. And I'm going to enable the waiting room. What that does is when kids first join a meeting, you get a little notification as the host and you have to approve them before they can enter your meeting. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save this and then get started so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so because I started without video, it just gets a symbol. You might have your initial there or something. You can always change that if you want to click on start video so that your kids can see you. I'm not going to do that because I don't think you need to see me right now. Something that I always go do is I select the gallery view so that I get to see a little square so I can see all of the different kids in the meeting instead of just one big person, whoever's talking. So the first thing you want to go do is go down here to manage participants. Okay, this is going to give you a list of all of the participants and you can mute them or unmute them or turn their video on and off. You have control of all of that. You can also mute them all or unmute them all. Okay. Click down here on this little More tab, and this is a key thing. You need to uncheck this box. You don't want to allow participants to unmute themselves. It's like a teacher's dream. You can mute your kids and they can't unmute themselves. So some of the rules I would suggest for your Zoom conference is you need to make sure kids are in a quiet space without a lot of distractions. Otherwise, you turn their video off. Okay? If they have a question while you're speaking, they don't interrupt. They can come to the chat and they can type that question in here. If you need to address a specific student, you can come to the chat, select that student's name, and then type a little message in there as well. Okay, so that is just a few quick basic tips on how to do a successful Zoom meeting. I would suggest, when it first comes in, turn everybody's video on, do some hellos, and then go over the rules and say, okay, we're going to get started. I'm going to mute you and we're going to start, and then start teaching. If those kids are being distracting, you can just turn their videos off, send them a little text message while you're talking even. And that's one way you can get the most out of your Zoom conferences.